What's up everyone, welcome back to Otakuact. So this episode starts with the tension thick inside the Hunter Association, and I'm immediately on edge because we see this mysterious figure, Celid, the Frost Monarch, just casually sitting across from President Go, like he owns the place. President Go's mind scrambling to make sense of this intruder's sudden presence. Something about this creature twisted his instincts, something ancient and wrong and honestly sane. What got me was how President Go couldn't understand how he failed to sense such a dangerous aura. Like, this man has been around powerful hunters his whole life, but the aura swelling around Celid made it clear this was no ordinary intruder. President Go knew he couldn't face this alone, and that's when you know things are about to get real. Then Celid drops this bombshell. The office had already been severed from the outside world. The way that declaration rattled President Go felt so surreal, like a dream slipping into nightmare. But before anyone could process that, something sharp and fast sliced past his left shoulder with this searing chill following it. Guys, the visual of frost forming rapidly with that jagged trail of ice spreading across his suit where the projectile grazed him, I could practically feel that pain blooming beneath the surface. And Celid, without even shifting his tone, just casually comments on the wound and wonders aloud if the chairman still believed he was dreaming. Chills. Now fully alert, President Go demands to know who this figure is, but Celid just frowns with disappointment, saying he hoped President Go would recognize him without needing introductions. The confusion clouding the chairman's thoughts mirrors exactly how I felt reading this. But then Celid gets dismissive and calls President Go a fragment of brilliant light, urging him to reveal his true self. Almost mockingly, he adds that perhaps the fragment was simply afraid the vessel might crumble beneath the weight of its own power. What does that even mean? With no reaction from President Go, Celid loses interest and unleashes this devastating burst of icy magic. The explosion rippling through the office, shaking walls and filling the room with thick white fog that cloaked everything. But then, in that freezing haze, Celid smiled as two radiant lights shone through. Piercing golden eyes burning with power. The fragment of brilliant light had finally awakened. This is the moment I've been waiting for. This wasn't the Hunter Association chairman anymore. This was the brightest fragment of brilliant light in full form, his body cloaked in that luminous golden aura pulsing with divine energy. The Frost Monarch's gaze sharpened, and with this grim grin, he admits he'd searched for this power for a long time, never realizing it had been hiding in what he calls a broken vessel. Then he drops the biggest bombshell. All 7 fragments of brilliant light had already been located, and 2 had already been destroyed. His goal was simple, but terrifying: to witness the proud humiliation on the brightest fragment's face before killing him. But President Go doesn't flinch. His roar echoed with defiance, daring the Frost Monarch to prove he could bring him down. Celid chuckles darkly, amused that a fragment clinging to a fading body dared challenge a monarch who had long since conquered his own vessel. Then he raises his arms, and with this thunderous screech, a massive wall of jagged ice surged forward like a wave of death. The action sequence that follows is insane. President Go dodging at the last moment, the ice tearing through space, his golden punch crashing into the frost wall and shattering it into frozen shards raining down like hail. Without missing a beat, he charged and aimed a devastating strike at Celid. But guys, the monarch danced away effortlessly, countering with an ice spear that sliced across President Go's shoulder. Blood bloomed, the chairman staggered. For a split second, Celid's guard slipped, and President Go saw it, lunging forward with a punch toward the opening. But Celid was too quick with that ice barrier forming instantly. The way President Go kept attacking again and again, pressing forward, trying to find even the smallest weakness, but Celid moved like mist, untouchable, and the chamber rang with the sound of their clash, magic exploding with every collision, shaking the structure from within. President Go's breaths grew heavier, his movements slowed, his body screamed with every step. He was running out of time. With desperation mounting, he pushed into one last charge, a golden punch blazing with everything he had left, but Celid stepped back, avoiding the strike with ease. The truth hit like a hammer. His vessel was breaking, his strength nearly gone. Celid stood tall and untouched, his gaze now holding something colder, pity. Then the monarch vanished and reappeared right before him. President Go's eyes barely registered the movement before the spear tore through his chest. That agonizing pain erupting through his body, blood pouring from his mouth as he stumbled, barely remaining upright. Celid loomed over him grinning, watching the fragment crumble, speaking calmly about how long it would take to find a new vessel. But by then, he said, the monarchs would already have gathered. This world would fall long before the fragment could return. But President Go coughed blood and laughed. He gripped the spear and said he hadn't fought in vain. The Frost Monarch had missed something. Just as the fragments failed to anticipate his actions, Celid too overlooked what truly mattered. Then without warning, this colossal burst of mana roared past his face. The explosion rocked the dimension itself, shattering part of the enclosed space. The mana barrier Celid crafted around the office shattered into pieces, crumbling like glass. With the last of his strength, President Go let out a cry, and from beneath him the shadow shifted, and a figure surged forth, an ant-shaped creature darting forward, leaping through the shattered wall with an ear-piercing scream. Celid brushed it off as just another foot soldier from the abyss, until this chilling realization hit him. This wasn't just any soldier. His eyes widened in horror as he realized his grave mistake. He flung President Go's body aside and launched after the ant with a sickle of frost, but the sickle never connected. A hand caught it mid-air with bone-crushing force, and standing there, gripping it like it was nothing, was Jin-Woo. His cold, piercing eyes locked onto the Frost Monarch as he grabbed Celid by the throat, demanding to know his true identity. Even in this weakened state, Celid sensed the monstrous shadow army looming behind Jin-Woo, muttering, "Shadow Monarch," and questioning why he hadn't reached out to other monarchs sooner. Jin-Woo's confusion was plain, and Celid finally understood what President Go meant. Jin-Woo was the crucial piece he'd overlooked. After a desperate freezing blast and Jin-Woo shattering an ice wall with his demon dark daggers, Celid unexpectedly suggested ending the fight. But then he conjured an enormous spear of jagged ice and launched it straight toward the helpless chairman, presenting Jin-Woo with a cruel ultimatum. Jin-Woo's eyes blazed as he activated ruler's authority, but the Frost Monarch's magic resisted his command. His fury exploded as he shot forward, intercepting the spear mid-flight and deflecting it with a resounding clash, embedding it into a marble pillar. He'd saved President Go, but his rage was fully ignited. Before Jin-Woo could retaliate, Celid summoned a swirling portal to flee. Jin-Woo hurled daggers, one sinking deep into Celid's shoulder, the monarch's body tensing with pain. But he didn't attack, instead stepping toward the gate, declaring coldly he'd return once Jin-Woo's shadows opened again. With one final venomous taunt, he gestured toward the dying chairman, calling him Jin-Woo's parting gift, a corpse soon to join his army. Those words pierced deeper than any spear could, but before Jin-Woo could move, the monarch vanished into the shrinking portal. The room fell into unnatural silence, the magical barrier gone, and Jin-Woo cursed himself for not sensing the threat sooner. He rushed to President Go's side. The chairman lay still, soaked in blood. This wasn't something a potion could heal. Jin-Woo called for Baru, who tore through space like lightning and channeled his full magical strength, but nothing changed. Jin-Woo drew the holy water of life as a last resort, but a trembling hand clutched his wrist. President Go's eyes fluttered open, whispering for Jin-Woo to stop. It was already too late. With labored breath, the chairman offered gratitude. Jin-Woo had arrived, and that alone was enough. Blood spilling from his lips, he spoke of the Supreme Being, revelations from the other side, and a battle on the horizon unlike any before. He warned that a time would come when Jin-Woo would have to make a critical choice about which side to stand on, pleading with him to stay with humanity no matter what. His voice cracked as he confessed his longing to fight alongside the younger generation, but his body had failed him. Still, he had no regrets. Meeting Jin-Woo had given him peace. His heart, weak and faltering, had endured all this time just for this moment, just to see Jin-Woo with his own eyes. His hand slipped from Jin-Woo's grasp, falling to the floor with a soft final thud. Jin-Woo remained still, lips pressed tight, eyes fixed on the lifeless face of a man he'd respected, while Baru bowed low beside him. Outside, the sky broke open and rain began to fall, soft, unending and mournful, as if the heavens themselves paused to mourn a life now lost. The cold autumn wind whispered through falling rain as headlines lit up screens across the globe. Brazil's great hunter Jonas found lifeless in a river, the Korean Hunters Association chairman brutally murdered, stabbed through the heart. Christopher Reed, Jonas and Go Gun-Hee, once revered as the world's mightiest protectors, were now written among the dead. Panic swept through nations. News outlets looped grim footage and desperate commentary. Even the U.S. Hunter Association stepped forward with statements, but no words could soothe the rising dread. Humanity had always looked to hunters for salvation, but now the world was forced to ask the terrifying question, who protects the hunters? What did you think of this episode? Are you as shook as I am? Let me know in the comments below. Smash that like button if this episode destroyed you emotionally like it did me. And don't forget to subscribe for more solo leveling breakdowns. Until next time, keep leveling up.